Have you ever felt a deep personal connection to a person you met in a dream only to wake up feeling terrible because you realized they never existed?
Throwaway account cause this is really personal. My last semester at a certain college I was assaulted by a football player for walking where he was trying to drive. Note he was 325 pounds, I was 120 pounds. While unconscious on the ground I lived a different life. I met a wonderful young lady, she made my heart skip and my face red. I pursued her for months and dispatched a few jerk boyfriends before I finally won her over. After 2 years we got married and almost immediately she bore me a daughter. I had a great job and my wife didn't have to work outside of the house. When my daughter was 2, my wife bore me a son. My son was the joy of my life. I would walk into his room every morning before I left for work and doted on him and my daughter. One day while sitting on the couch I noticed that the perspective of the lamp was odd, like inverted. It was still in 3D but just wrong. It was a square lamp base, red with gold trim on 4 legs and a white square shade. I was transfixed, I couldn't look away from it. I stayed up all night staring at it. The next morning I didn't go to work, something was just not right about that lamp. I stopped eating, I left the couch only to use the bathroom at first, soon I stopped that too as I wasn't eating or drinking. I stared at the fucking lamp for 3 days before my wife got really worried. She had someone come and try to talk to me. By this time my cognizance was breaking up and my wife was freaking out. She took the kids to her mother's house just before I had my epiphany. The lamp is not real. The house is not real. My wife, my kids. None of that is real. The last 10 years of my life are not fucking real. The lamp started to grow wider and deeper. It was still inverted dimensions. It took up my entire perspective and all I could see was red. I heard voices, screams, all kinds of weird noises and I became aware of pain. A fucking shit ton of pain. The first words I said were, "I'm missing teeth," and opened my eyes. I was laying on my back on the sidewalk surrounded by people that I didn't know. Lots were freaking out. I was completely confused. At some point a cop scooped me up, walked me across the sidewalk and grass and threw me face down in the back of a cop car. I was still confused. I was taken to the hospital by the cop. Seems he didn't want to wait for the ambulance to arrive and give CT scans and shit. I went through about 3 years of horrid depression. I was grieving the loss of my wife and children and dealing with the knowledge that they never existed. I was scared that I was going insane as I would cry myself to sleep hoping I would see her in my dreams. I never have, but sometimes I see my son, usually just a glimpse out of my peripheral vision. He is perpetually 5 years old and I can never hear what he says. Edit 24 hours after post. Never though anyone would read this. I changed a line so that it no longer seems that my 2-year-old daughter bore a child. I have never seen Inception or the Star Trek episodes so many have mentioned, but I will eventually. I will not do an AMA. I've had many PMs describing similar experiences and 3 posters stating such experiences are impossible. I'd say more research needs to be done on brain functions. Pre-med students, don't assume you know everything. A few have asked if they can write a book, screenplay, stage play, rage comic, etc. Please consider this tale open source and have fun with it.
This is pretty creepy. I used to get bronchitis often, every 2 or 3 months, and one time it was particularly bad. I had friends checking in on me making sure I took my meds regularly, and one friend made a lot of echinacea tea and made sure I drank it regularly. I have no memory of this time. During that time I lived a completely different life. It wasn't 10 years though, just a few weeks. Up until I got sick I was very unhappy with life in general. Very depressed a lot of the time and even suicidal. My best friend had died recently and basically my whole life sucked and I could not find ways to fix it. During these few weeks where I was out, I managed to find ways to fix most of these problems. My friend even came back. I was super happy, met a great girl. Huge promotion at work, everything was better. One afternoon my friend and I were hanging out at our favorite bar and I realized I hadn't shown him any of the tattoos I got while he was dead. I went to show him the one I got in memorial of him and it was literally dripping off my skin. As were all the other tattoos I had gotten since his death. At that point it occurred to me that he was dead. That I somehow had a child with this woman I had met a few weeks ago and that the bar we were in was abandoned and empty and lined with cobwebs, which I had noticed before, but it didn't seem weird until just that moment. That whole existence ends there in that abandoned bar. No more story there. I assume this is when I started walking around on my own again, but I still have no memory of that either. In fact, I have no memory of anything for a week after I woke up and started walking around again. During that week, my friends tell me I didn't speak or make eye contact. Rarely ate in front of anyone. They left food out for me. They came back to an empty dish. I didn't die. I must have been eating. I have no memory of any of this. My first memories kick back in while I am at work. It was difficult to cope with this. To finally get all this weight off my shoulders and finally be happy again. To finally put that part of my life behind me was the best feeling I've ever experienced. And then to wake up and find out that's not real is hard. It's hard to accept as reality. Every night you go to bed expecting to wake up in that dream world and learn that bad world was actually the dream. Never happened. This was 3 or 4 years ago now. Sometimes when I'm really stressed out, little pieces will creep into dreams. The dripping tattoos, for example. But the one that haunts me the most is every once in a while I will have a dream where I am on the couch with my son, the same from above, and my wife is in the kitchen doing something. The phone rings and I answer and it's my current girlfriend. She asks what the noise is and I say, "That's my son," and as soon as I say that it becomes obvious to me that she isn't the mother and she's not my wife in the kitchen. Then I wake up. I know it's my stupid brain screwing with me, but something in my head that I can't quite explain knows that this is reality that hasn't yet come to pass. Or a reality I missed the turn for. It's so real. It's actually caused some problems between myself and my girlfriend because in the back of my brain I know someday I will meet my wife and this is temporary. I've had doctors try to tell me I am making this all up. It's pretty scary for someone to come up and explain almost the same thing without ever hearing me explain it before. Like this could be an actual thing. I feel for you, dude. I can't explain how painful it is to lose something that great. And then have to try to explain to yourself that you never had it to begin with. I have a question though. Do you ever run across things like that lamp in the real world? Does it terrify the hell out of you? Years later I still have moments where I think I see something glitchy like that and the anxiety is instant. Like I am about to lose my reality again. Wow, dude. Scary day now. Thanks for posting this. I've never talked about this before and it's somehow comforting to write it all down. Update: over the years a bunch of people have reached out to me about this post. It's been 7 years as of this update since I wrote the above. I've married my girlfriend, moved across the country, bought a house, changed careers. I'm happy now, and when friends from back then visit with me, they tell me I'm a totally different person now, and that they are happy I'm still even alive, let alone happy and healthy. My wife and I are having our first child in a few weeks, a baby boy. I have a few weird things like the lamp that have poked through from that dream world to the real world. The kitchen from the dream world is in my current house. My wife bought the house without me seeing it and I nearly passed out the first time I saw it. There was also a mountain in front of the house in the dream world, and that mountain is about a mile away in front of my house now. Not a similar mountain, that same mountain. I know every inch of it from the dream world and it kind of creeps me out when I go see a part of it in the real world for the first time. It's changed, trees grow, etc. But it's all still there. I can't explain that. My mother-in-law is very spiritual and she tells me she will explain it all to me someday when I'm ready to understand it. That creeps me out too. The rest of the house is different. My wife is the girlfriend from the original post, not the wife in the dream. I have feels about that, but the edges get rounder as time goes on. Obviously my friend is still dead, lol, and the bar from the dream is still back where it ever was, cobweb-free, half a world away where I left it. I've gotten treatment for some mental health issues, a neurogenetic brain disorder, and once that was dialed in I stopped having any interest in alcohol or weed overnight. Life is good now, and I don't have any of the dreams. I don't really even think about it anymore until something pops up from someone who reads this. I think it was a couple of things. I think partly it was stress, grief, mental illness, and a mild intolerance to echinacea. But I also think it was a bit of a symptom of how the universe actually works, maybe the nature of time. I think maybe the sensory suite of the human being can only experience this universe in a certain way, and sometimes when our brains break, things bleed through due to the true nature of the universe. Maybe all of time, and all possible versions of time really do happen at once, and when your mind is bent a certain way pieces of the other times and versions poke through. I don't know. Maybe my memory of the dream has changed over time to fit my reality now, and my kitchen and my mountain have been superimposed over my memory from the dream.